trip to Walt Disney World can be costly and complicated. There are a few very important things you should know when you're planning to make your trip run smoothly. I mean, who hasn't always dreamed about a trip to Walt Disney World? If you've never been there, or if it's somewhere you haven't been lately, there's a lot of planning involved, which can be overwhelming. There's endless attractions to see, rides to rides, and places to dine. You want to accomplish most of the things you set out to do. In short, you want to make the most of your time for the amount of money that you spend. Now, I've been to Disney World several times, as a child and an adult. I've been there with and without children. My most recent trip to Disney was last April when I took my family, and I successfully pulled off a fun-filled trip to Disney World with 3 children under the ages of 8 years old. So first, I'll explain the different types of free transportation they offer throughout Disney World. Next, I'll describe a little bit about how the FastPass system works. And finally, I'll talk about tips on planning your dining experiences. So the monorail is one of the quickest ways to get around the park, but it only goes to the Magic Kingdom and Epcot Center. Also, there's only 3 resorts that have access to the monorail system. That's the Grand Floridian, the Contemporary, and the Polynesian Resort. There's also another mode, the water taxi or the ferry. It's a lovely ride if you're not in a hurry to get somewhere because destinations are not always direct. This option is available as transportation to the Magic Kingdom, to Hollywood Studios, Disney Springs, and Epcot Center. So there are several different hotels that offer this mode of transportation, so I suggest exploring all your options and seeing what meets your family's needs the best. The most popular and most accessible are the Disney buses. Now, the Disney buses go to all the major parks as well as all the water parks and the resorts. Buses do get very crowded. They also make several stops at different hotels along the way. There's also going to be times when the bus is too full and you're going to have to wait for the next bus to come. This is usually when I call an Uber. So keep that in mind during peak hours when people are trying to get in the park early in the morning and leave later at night. So now that we discussed different modes of transportation, you want to consider what rides and attractions you want to see so that you can plan your fast passes. Fast passes allow you to reserve a time slot that you can enter a ride within a certain time frame via the fast pass line. So you want to explore your list of all the attractions and so that you can plan your fast passes accordingly and avoid your lengthy wait times. You're able to book your fast passes 60 days in advance if you're staying on a Disney-owned resort. 30 days in advance if you're staying outside of Disney. You're only allowed to reserve 3 fast passes per day initially, but then after you use those fast passes, you can reserve ones for later in the day. Now, fast passes, you're basically going to be able to, they're broken down by tiers in all of the parks with the exception of the Magic Kingdom. You have tier 1, 2, and 3. Tier 1 being the most popular rides that usually book up very quickly. So you're only allowed to book 1 tier 1 ride per day, 2 tier 2 rides per day, and then 3, which are the least popular rides and usually don't have lengthy wait times. You can book all 3 of your fast passes with tier 3 rides. So how it works is you're going to reserve a time slot online and you need to arrive between that time window, scan your Magic Band, they let you in through the fast pass line. And if you don't show up during that time frame, you will forfeit your pass. So rides and attractions are important, but there's also hundreds of extraordinary restaurants and dinner shows you may want to see, and they provide an entirely another source of entertainment. So dining reservations can be made up to 180 days in advance to your arrival. And I know that seems like a long time, but believe me, if there's really a restaurant you want to experience, you need to book it so that you don't miss out. And you don't want to get a reservation that's an undesirable time for you. Now, restaurants are located throughout the parks, the resorts, as well as at Disney Springs. If the restaurant is in one of the parks, make sure you're planning on going to that park and using your admission ticket that day if you do not have a Hopper Pass. A Hopper Pass is an additional cost to a regular admission ticket, and it allows you unlimited access to all the parks throughout the day. But if you don't possess one of these, you need to make sure that your restaurant that you're eating at is where you're using your ticket for that day. Because even with a dinner reservation, they will not allow you in the park without an admission pass. No exceptions. Now, there are also a ton of counter service meals, places you can get counter service meals that do not require any reservations, and they still have very good food and offer a fantastic atmosphere. You can even sometimes catch a character walking through. Now, when considering the character meal meet and greets, you need to research carefully. They tend to be quite pricey and they can disappoint if it's not what you expected. So you want to make sure that you look at the menu choices before booking it. Make sure you like what they're offering on the menu. A lot of these are buffet style or family style meals. So, and also keep in mind you're paying for the actual experience and not so much the food. This will make it a little easier when you're paying $60 for your 6-year-old to eat cheeseburgers and chicken fingers with Mickey Mouse. So first I explained some of the different options for transportation throughout the resort. Next I talked a little bit about the FastPass system and how it worked. And then finally I offered some tips and advice on planning your meal experiences. So these are only just a few important factors to consider when planning a successful trip to Disney World. Being informed and organized early on is just very important. So I've only discussed a handful of things that you need to be knowledgeable about. There are plenty of other things to consider, so make sure you do your research. Poor planning has the potential to make your vacation to the happiest place on earth not so happy.